All right, welcome to The Explainer. If you've ever felt completely buried under a mountain of project paperwork, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dig into how one company fought back against this universal headache by building what they call an AI-powered digital factory, a system designed to automate their documentation from start to finish.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Just imagine an AI that could read every single project document you've ever created. You know, the charters, the risk logs, the whole shebang. And then it gives you a totally honest, data-driven report card on how your team is actually doing. What do you think that would change for you?
Well, get this. That's not some far-off idea anymore. This is a real quote from a PMO director who's using a new assessment tool, and it's powered by the very system we're breaking down today called ADPA. They're using it to find those critical gaps in their process. You know, the kinds of sneaky weaknesses that can totally derail a project, but are almost impossible to spot with the naked eye.
Now, on the surface, the process looks almost ridiculously simple. You just upload your project files, the AI does its magic, and boom! In just a few minutes, you get back this full breakdown with concrete, actionable recommendations. Easy, right?
But, as you've probably guessed, that simple user portal, it's just the tip of a very, very big iceberg. The real story here isn't about one little application, it's about the massive enterprise-grade engine that's running things behind the scenes.
So, let's do it. Let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the actual architecture of this AI engine. You see that assessment portal we just saw? That's really just the front door. It's only one application built on top of a much, much larger system. It's called the Advanced Document Processing and Automation Framework, or, ADPA for short.
And this is super important. You have to think of ADPA not as just another tool, but as a complete digital factory. It's got an assembly line, and that assembly line is designed for one purpose: to take in, understand, create, and manage complex business documents at a massive enterprise scale. And this factory has several different production lines running at once. It can automatically generate project plans that are already compliant with industry standards like PMBOK. It can scan documents to make sure they're following privacy laws like GDPR. It can even intelligently pull data right out of PDFs, all while managing approval workflows and plugging into the systems you already use.
So that brings up the big question, right? Why on earth would a company need to build something this complex? What was the problem that was so bad they needed an AI factory to fix it?
Well, the answer is a pain point that I think pretty much every large organization feels deep in its bones. Their project teams were spending an estimated 60% of their time on low-value, manual work. We're talking formatting documents, copying and pasting, chasing down approvals, and only 40% on the strategic stuff they were actually hired to do.
And this slide really shows you the true cost of all that. For someone like Marcus, a project manager, it meant 40% of his week was just gone, wasted on admin. It meant half of all rework was happening because of miscommunications buried in different document versions. It meant getting a simple approval took days, not minutes, all while risking huge, costly compliance errors.
Okay, so the problem was crystal clear and the stakes were really high. Now, let's get into the blueprint. How do you actually build an AI factory like this? Well, it turns out it starts with a super disciplined approach.
So this wasn't some vague, multi-year odyssey. No, this was a focused 12 to 16-week sprint. By breaking it down into these really clear phases, from discovery to deployment to rollout, they made sure the project stayed on track and started delivering value fast.
And this, right here, is where their planning just shines. They weren't just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. They built a detailed risk register, thinking ahead about the hurdles they might face, like people pushing back on a new tool or technical nightmares with old systems, and they had a plan to deal with it from day one.
And holding it all together was a modern, serious enterprise-grade tech stack. We're talking flexible technologies like Node.js, a scalable cloud platform using Kubernetes, and automated deployments. This was not a weekend experiment. This thing was built to be robust, secure, and ready for the big leagues from the absolute ground up, following strict standards like ISO 27001.
So after all that disciplined planning, all that building, all that rolling out, what was the actual payoff? Did this digital factory really deliver?
Oh, it absolutely did. Over just a 3-year period, the project delivered a staggering 380% return on investment. Let that sink in. For every single dollar they put into this, they got nearly $4 back in value. Just wild.
And honestly, here's the part that really blew my mind. That incredible ROI It didn't come from some massive multi-million-dollar budget. The entire initial investment to get this digital factory off the ground was just $75,000. That is a remarkably small price to pay for solving such a massive problem.
And you can see the budget was incredibly strategic. The biggest slice of the pie, $30,000, wasn't spent on fancy hardware. It was spent on people, on bringing in specialized technical expertise in AI and machine learning. They invested in brains, not just boxes, and they were smart enough to set aside a healthy contingency fund just in case.
And I mean, the results really do speak for themselves. They wanted to cut documentation time in half. Instead, they cut it by 60%. They wanted to slash data entry areas by 95%, and they nailed it, exactly. But maybe most impressive of all, they wanted to completely eliminate documentation-related audit findings, and they got to zero.
At the end of the day, the ADPA framework proves a really powerful point. With smart, disciplined management and a focused investment, you can take a major operational headache, a cost center like documentation, and turn it into a genuine strategic asset that generates incredible returns for the business. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As these AI-powered digital factories get more and more common, and as AI gets better at handling its own complex paperwork, what's the next big clunky, inefficient business process that's just sitting there waiting to be completely reinvented?